You really don't have to look very far to find videos on how to set up a good Facebook ad campaign or beginner strategies for Facebook ad campaigns. While often a lot of these videos are helpful in creating the structure for an ad campaign, hardly any of them ever tell you what to put in the ads themselves. And yes, of course, this leaves room to upsell to your audience and hopefully ascend them up your ladder to make some of that sweet moolah. But I say to hell with that. Let's dig into some of the common mistakes that I see people are making within their ads and how a lot of very simple fixes can be very powerful in your Facebook ad creation. To give you a specific example of this, I recently helped a friend who had an online business, and it was in an industry that I'd never done any work with before, and it was actually way off any type of industry that I worked from before. It was polar opposite to what I would usually work with. But I offered to lend a hand nonetheless, and I managed to 20x his click-through rate. We went from a 0.2 to a 4% click-through rate on his ads. And there were some very simple changes that I made to some of his actually already existing ads that helped us get those figures. And yes, I am only talking about the click-through rate here. In terms of sales that came out at the end of it, there weren't too many, but the conversion rate of the website was dreadful, and I actually had no influence over that at all. But again, there are a lot of simple changes that I was trying to suggest that we make to help that I know would have worked. But I was never allowed to do so. But if you want a video on that, please do let me know. So first big mistake that I see in a lot of people's ad campaigns is there is no real indication as to who you are. You may be showcasing a product or some sort of service that you do, but there's no branding on what it is you're posting. Now, I suppose for a personal brand, this isn't too much of an issue because your brand is your face. But if you're a business and you're marketing for your business, you want to include some key footprints of your branding. And the main reason for that is for brand recall. Now, as I said in my example case study, we went from a 0.2 to a 4% click-through rate. That is fantastic. But there are still 96% of people who didn't click on the ad. And while let's say 50% of those people actually what it was that we were selling wasn't relevant to them, there's still 44% of people who it might be relevant to them, but they just chose not to click on it at that time. Or maybe it's just that they're not aware that they have that problem, or they don't have that problem at the moment, but in the future, what you have, they might want. I hope that makes sense post-editing. So make sure you put your brand in there, put your logos in there, put your fonts in there, your colors in there, so that if people come to another one of your ads, they think, oh, I've seen this before. It'll trigger something in their psychology to want to look into more what it is that you have. That quick double take that your audience make might be enough to get them to read through what it is that is on your ad this time. And of course, branding and brand recall helps for retargeting ad campaigns, which does bring me on to my next mistake that I see people make in their Facebook ads or meta ads, is making adjustments dependent on who it is that you are talking to. I'm supposed to write this word first. So what I mean by that is you will have people at different stages of your sales funnel, and that can commonly be broken down into the top of the funnel, the middle of the funnel, and the bottom of the funnel. And how you speak to your audience at these different levels needs to be different. You should not be talking to your middle of funnel people the same way you are talking to your top of funnel people. So for people in your top of funnel, it comes back to this point here. You want your branding and who it is that you are to be as clear as possible. This is your first opportunity to demonstrate to people who you are, what it is you do. First impressions are important. And with that said, you need to make sure that your content for your top of funnel is informative and educational as well. We need to quickly be able to tell people what it is that you do, some of your USPs, maybe some of the products or services that you offer. Oftentimes you don't want to give them the hard sell straight away with your first ads. They need to have a good enough idea of what it is that you do. And of course, as always, a clear CTA. A couple of examples could be, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. So once you get to your middle of the funnel, once again, we of course want to include strong branding because we want people to recognize you. They've seen you once before, and likely for your middle of funnel retargeting ads, they have engaged with you, your profile, your ads in some way. We want them to be able to recognize you because the likelihood is they've engaged with you before. They'll want to see what it is you have to say this time as well. Now, one of the key things you want to be doing with your middle of funnel ads is handling any objections that your audience may have. As we're talking to people in the middle of funnel, it will be that these people have engaged with you, likely your website in one way or another, and for whatever reason at that time, they didn't feel like they wanted to make the purchase. Likelihood is there will be some common objections that you will be aware of that people have when coming through your sales funnel, whether it be to do with pricing, what it is that your product is, what it is that you do. Think of some of the common objections, common questions that you get in your business and try to handle those in your middle of funnel ads. Now with your bottom of funnel ads, these people are already aware of it is what that you do. You've probably answered a lot of the questions they have. And it might be that actually at this point they are ready to buy, they just haven't done it yet. So in your bottom of funnel ads, you want to showcase as concisely as possible what it is you do, the prices, the key features, so that they can click on that ad and basically just buy then and there. It should be that there shouldn't be too much convincing you need to do with these bottom funnel ads. Maybe include some sort of special discount for people who have made it to this part, but really you just want to hit your key points once and for all in one last incredible ad of sorts to drive people to make that purchase. Now, the third common mistake that I see is that people's creatives are just an absolute load of rubbish, to put it delicately. I've touched on this a lot, but there's a reason for it. And again, to some people, it might seem obvious, but there's a reason I'm talking about this, and that is because I see this far too often. But your creatives, the images that people see, the videos that people see, they need to be good. They need to be of good quality, particularly if we're in a paid ad campaign. If we're talking about organic stuff that you're not putting any money into, then okay, if it's not of the highest quality, it's not the end of the world. But if you're pumping money into a certain video or photo or series of photos that actually just don't look very good at all, you're essentially just burning cash, because the likelihood is, again, particularly if we're thinking about the top of funnel people here, people who don't know who you are, if they see a crap creative, a crap video or photo that makes no sense to them whatsoever and doesn't tell anything about what it is that you do, or just gives a poor demonstration of what it is that you do, they're not going to engage with that, and you're going to be wasting money on that audience. The creatives of our ads are the first and best chance that we have of drawing people in to see more of what it is that we do. People aren't going to want to click on your ad if it looks bad. People aren't going to want to click read more if your ad is bad. Make it look nice, make it look good, create intrigue, make people want to see more of what it is that you do. I'm not saying you have to be some professional videographer or Photoshop master. There are some basic principles that we need to follow to make sure that our creatives look nice and your brand is represented properly. So point number 4 is that what you are saying in your ads, and more specifically, often in examples, is your descriptions, is scaring people off. I've worked with clients where when I've looked into their previous ad campaigns, they've had ads that have actually performed better with no description than the ones that have had descriptions in them. I've had many debates with other marketers and businesses that I've worked with about whether the descriptions within your ads should be long form or short form. But from what I found in my testing and in the real life examples of ads that I have run, shorter descriptions actually work better within your ads. Now, when we're talking about things like landing pages and emails, creating a longer story for people to read through can often help with conversion rates and bringing people through your funnel. But from what I found in my ads, a short description that creates a good amount of intrigue, but isn't requiring of your audience to scroll through loads of text, and by the time they've actually got halfway through, they're bored, and so they go off it anyway. You want to reel your audience in, but you don't want to scare them off with your bad breath. You don't want to be going on for too long that actually it drives them away rather than brings them in. And last, and as always, certainly not least, is how are you testing and scaling your ads? Again, too often I see businesses that will have a campaign with one ad set and one ad in it. And they'll have maybe 2 or 3 campaigns that are set up like that. That kind of a setup, first of all, is not giving you any data whatsoever. But the reason we test things and try out new things is it could be that you are one description or one creative or one audience tweak away from your ads skyrocketing. You don't want to get too stuck in your own ways with things that have been working as well. An example of another client I worked with, we had one ad creative that no matter what we were testing would always work best. For months, we'd tried different types of videos, different types of photos, ones that we had seen work with other clients before, but for whatever reason, this one photo just reigned supreme. But we didn't stop testing, we kept testing. And actually, eventually, we found a different type of photo that outperformed this previous king creative. And we actually ended up turning off that original creative that was performing well. And our conversion rates, our cost per lead, our cost per acquisition went down with this new creative that we never would have found if we had just looked at the original one that was working well and thought, that's good enough, we'll stick with it. Always be testing new things, new photos, new videos, new headlines, new descriptions, new landing pages, but always leave room for data. Don't just come up with a bunch of new headlines or descriptions, creatives, put them into your ad campaigns and come back to it 24 hours later, look at the results, think, they're not good enough, and switch them off. I once asked a friend of mine who works for a big time media agency who's spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a week on ads, says to me that with their new testing, they leave at least 3 weeks to collect data before they make any changes, switch anything off, or move creatives out of their testing campaigns into their active campaigns. If you enjoyed this video or got any value out of it at all, please do like and subscribe to the channel. I've got tons more content like this lined up to come out very soon. And if you want to see a real life example of how I use some of these similar concepts in a client case study where I was able to triple their income in just under 90 days, then click the link in my bio.